just briefly touch on this thing that I saw from Dane Lloyd. Dane Lloyd is doing a great job at SECU. That's the Public Safety Committee. He raised Alexa's story about the Antifa cell operating within the DND. He raised that at committee, and of course, Gary Anandasangri is like, I don't know what you're talking about. No, why would you know anything about public safety? Like, you're just the minister and stuff, but whatever. But Dane Lloyd, this morning, he tweeted out this about the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. So the Liberals give 200,000. So when those people are called, that it feels like it's organized, these attacks on conservatives where they completely come along and destroy your reputation. It is organized, and it's bought and paid for with your own money. Your reputation is being destroyed. Liberals gave 200,000 tax dollars to a discredited organization to help with creating an ethical framework for research on far-right organizing in Canada. Now, we know that the violence, political violence in this country is, of course, coming from the political left, but this stuff then ends up in Department of Defense reports where they're like, we need to deal with ideologically motivated violent extremists. And then they're like, let's focus on the Proud Boys. And like the men's drinking club.
Exactly. Like, the RCMP reads reports like this and says, this is why we must keep an eye on the chicken farm and trad wives.
Right, exactly.
This is how this happens.
Well, this is how you get an RCMP spokeswoman saying, you know, we've got to be worried about people with traditional values. They could be extremists. Can we just put that back up on the screen? This is where it comes from. The government funds these people. Sorry,
they fund the partisan research. That they need to censor conservatives, and then they wrap it up in a big old bow that says ethics. Well, we're just being ethical because we're just researching all of this. We're just finding out more information. No, this is how this all gets funded.
Right. This is a solution in search of a problem. Right? Like, that's what it is. The solution is label your enemies violent extremists akin to Nazis. We need to fund somebody with independent research who's ideologically aligned with us, who will do that, who will say those things. And here it is in action. So this is the same organization that falsely claimed an anti-Semitic flyer circulated at convoy protests. It absolutely did not. I think actually that they were linked to that flyer. Why do taxpayers need to pay $200,000 to teach left-wing hacks how to be ethical? Excellent. Dane, this is excellent. Thank you for calling it exactly what it is and not parsing your words. It's creating an ethical...
There's a lot of work and preparation that has to go into getting them ready for the job market. It's not just about hammering out a resume. It's about making sure that they have the adequate supports. Some people don't often realize some of the struggles that some of these people go through. Not only are they connected to the work, but they're also connected to our whole mission and what we do as an organization.
Framework for research on far-right organizing in Canada, to establish a framework that enables the Anti-Hate Network to conduct studies on the far-right lens. So this isn't even money to conduct the study. This is money to create the infrastructure to conduct the study. You see, this is like a perpetuating, like perpetual motion machine, where the money just causes the perpetual motion. Expected outcomes include increased research capacity. Like, do you read that carefully? Not increased research, but increased research capacity. This is scaling up their activists, is what this means. On anti-democratic movements rooted in racism and identification. This is where a study gets produced that calls for the censorship of you. Identification and adoption of best practices for researching human subjects. That is creepy as all get out. And the development of foundations for a dedicated research arm that adheres to these ethical standards.
This is another perfect example of why defunding DEI is so terribly necessary. Because when you defund DEI, you also defund all of the organizations that were created in the wake of DEI. This is a perfect example. $36 million for a DEI initiative that's trying to position the government into having a problem that it then needs to solve.
Right.
Like, it's crazy. Defund all of this.
Exactly.
All of this. Anti-racism, climate craziness, gender craziness. Sheila, what are some of the other ones that we could defund? Women and gender.
Oh, that entire ministry. Gone.
The entire thing. Like,
Gone.
if it's related to any one of those checkboxes, cut it off.
And it's in every ministry. It's
in every public institution.
They're funding it through public safety. They're funding it through the DND of all places. They're funding it through Canadian Heritage. Like, it's so much.
The cost to the taxpayer is absolutely insanely staggering. And just on the surface, if we defunded all DEI, we could literally get rid of 30% of our government spending today. Oh. Because that's how pervasive it is in public institutions. When 30% of your workforce is dedicated to DEI, you've lost the plot. You've lost the plot.
Just think of all the things you couldn't be doing. Like, and that's what I always think about government. Like, not like, oh, imagine what government could do with all this money. I think of all the things they couldn't do. And that's what makes me happy, because I don't want them doing all that much. Because when you permit them to do lots of things, this is what you get.
Right. It is. No, DEI is a cancer in society and in public institutions in Canada. And we must just cut it out like a cancer. Treat it the same as cancer. DEI is cancer.
It's the real institutional racism, for sure.